Good morning, gamers. Welcome into the Gamers Roast podcast. I'm your host, Joshua J. Alongside me, Weston Lance.
Hello, good morning, everyone.
Today is January 27th, 2022.
Yep. Already through the first month.
Yep. Get y'all's tax monies in.
So we can crud, I got to do that.
Yeah. I just did it, so hopefully my money's coming in.
I should probably do that sometime this week.
Because, man, I mean, heck, the government takes everything, so might as well give us a little bit back of what they took from us in the first place, so that we can eventually give them back more stuff when we buy stuff with the stuff that we already got taxed on.
I'm glad that you have accurately understood the concept of taxation.
Mm-hmm. They always win. We always get we always lose, but they try to make it seem like we win once a year.
I mean, I'm okay with taxes because, you know, we have to fund the nation somehow.
But how are we still $13 trillion or whatever it is in
we are
debt?
not getting into that because I don't understand that. I'm just saying I understand the concept of taxation because there's a price to being a citizen. You get rights for being a citizen, there's a price for being a citizen.
I'm about
rights
to
and
go throw
responsibilities.
tea off a boat.
I don't think that would have the same effect as it did in 1770. What was it, 5? It wasn't 1776.
I just hate tea in general. So,
I love tea. I had a mug
okay.
of tea the other day while I was playing Sea of Thieves, and I was like, this is exactly what I wanted.
I'm going to throw you off a boat.
You know what it was? You know what kind of tea it was? It was English breakfast. So there. It tasted really good, guys. I'm serious.
There's a reason we won the war, okay?
Yeah, so I can choose to drink tea.
tea.
I mean, that is kind of why coffee got popular, was because people stopped drinking tea because they didn't want to support the British. So it really has always been that aggressively American.
Coffee versus tea.
Yeah.
It's great.
Oh my. Anywho.
Welcome into where we talk about games and all the fun things like that. Again, no really football things happening. Although if you watch the Bills versus Chiefs game, oh my gosh, was that a game for the ages. I've never seen a game that I thought was better played than that on offense.
Wow.
I mean, it was just quarterback going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Patrick Mahomes threw for 100, I think it was 75 yards after the 2-minute warning in the fourth quarter.
Oh, wow.
So, 2 minutes left in the game. He still threw for a field and 3/4 of that field.
That's actually insane.
There were 3 touchdowns and a field goal in 2 minutes.
Yeesh.
It just went back and forth, back. And I was rooting for the Bills. I like Josh Allen. My mom's a huge Bills fan. And they lost in overtime because the Chiefs won the coin flip. And the first person to get the ball in overtime, if they get a touchdown, the game's over. If they get a field goal, the other team gets a chance.
Right.
So Josh Allen never even got a chance because they just went down, scored, and it's just like, well, the game was decided by a coin flip. Darn it.
Wow.
But it was a great game to watch nonetheless. Both quarterbacks played their hearts out, did amazing, and now it's going to be the Chiefs going against the Bengals. And so the Chiefs are going to go to the Super Bowl.
There's no Tom Brady?
No, this is the first time since 2009 that neither Tom Brady nor Aaron Rodgers have been in one of the championship games.
What?
It's the Rams and 49ers, and then you got the Bills, the Chiefs and the Bengals.
Whoa.
So I'm going to say, might as well. I'm going to say the Chiefs by 10 and the Rams by 7. Might be a little bit more. I'll say 7.
All right. The only game I'm going to watch is the Super Bowl. Maybe.
Well, the Super Bowl I think is going to be between Matthew Stafford and the Rams and Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs.
That sounds like a decent. The only one that I was set on was the Chiefs. I feel like the Chiefs are going to be.
I think that if that happens, the Chiefs would probably win. But, I don't know, because the Rams have an amazing defense. The Chiefs don't really. Their defense looked a little faulty.
Okay.
So we'll find out. We'll see what happens. I'm going to say it now. I'm going to say the Rams in the Super Bowl over the Chiefs by 7. And that's killing me. But it's going to be a last-minute touchdown from Matthew Stafford.
On a somewhat related note, have you seen the lineup for the halftime show? It's stacked. It's Eminem, Snoop Dogg. Those are the only 2 people that I remember. Kendrick Lamar. Oh my word! I can't believe it was a big deal, but I don't listen to pop music. So 1 second. Super.
That'll be interesting.
Full halftime.
I don't know.
2022.
I usually skip most of
the trailer is actually really the announcement trailer was really, really cool. It looked like an MCU
Oh, really?
Trailer. Yeah.
So all the people coming together.
Kendrick Lamar, Eminem, Mary J. Blige, Snoop, and Dr. Dre.
Oh, man. Okay,
so
yeah,
it's
that's
pretty
gonna
stacked.
Be interesting.
I've never listened to any of those people's music, but I've heard of them.
Well, you'll listen to them during the halftime show.
I probably won't. I know. I just find halftime shows incredibly boring. I think the only halftime show I've ever watched was I did watch Lady Gaga's only because I was at a Super Bowl party and they just had it on. So I was like, might as well. But like I skipped Maroon 5, especially when Adam Lambert took his shirt off, and I was like, why? Is it Adam Lambert? Is that the guy? Who's Maroon 5? Know. The guy, I don't know. See, I you can tell I'm a big music fan, guys. He took his shirt off, and I was like, that was pointless, and now I'm uncomfortable, and so I turned it off.
All right, well.
Anyway. Yes. Ooh, yes.
That's the football. Here is, so depending on who makes these, they can be amazing or kind of just meh. But it's Wendy's Frosty-ccino. It's the chocolate one.
The only experience I have with this is my brother, and he said it was terrible. So
well, and I've had some that were terrible, and I've had others that were great, and I'm hoping this one's great, and I just want to see what you think.
All right. Well, I'm hopefully optimistic, cautiously optimistic. That's not bad, actually.
That's a good one.
It's not amazing.
That's a good one. Right, but this is a good one, so this would be a good one to judge.
Yeah, it literally just tastes like a Frosty with coffee in it.
Which is so good.
Which is not a bad, it's really not a bad combo. I don't know what it is about Frosties that have such a unique flavor. Like, it doesn't just taste like chocolate. There's something else there. And that flavor combines really well with espresso. This one's actually pretty good. It's not like amazing.
Right.
But I don't know. Solid 6.5, I'd say. Like, if it's especially like if you want something real quick, it's not good for you. Like, let's just keep that in mind. It's sugar and milk. But like, if you want to stop by and get something real quick and you're not looking for like the most amazing thing in the world.
Yeah. You want a fast food iced coffee? Frosty-ccino. The best ones I've ever had were always in the morning, too.
I will say, I think I would put the caramel macchiato from Dunkin' over this one. Personally.
Yeah, see, I wouldn't. I'm going to give this like a 7.
What did I give the caramel macchiato? Now that I think about it.
I don't remember.
Because if I gave that like a 6.5 or a 6, then this one has to be below that because I like that one better.
Yeah, our
rating, the scale is really hard, but no, 6 to 6.5.
There's so many coffees. Some of them are going to end up being in the same tier.
Yeah.
Comes down to like 10 decimal points after,
Like how the geographical point, the like coordinates for the Great Pyramid of Giza is the same as the speed of light, but because they picked so many decimal points, it's really easy to like pick a point on the pyramid. Vsauce did a video on it. It's really cool.
Exactly. It's kind of, we just have to have 10 decimal points, so it's 7.562495.
This reminds me of the Pi song. It was like 3.15129. I don't even remember it, but they like
oh gosh,
gave Pi a song so you could memorize the digits. But anyway, so
roast of the week.
Roast of the week. So this one actually made me angry. And like, I feel like I'm a little bit angry every week. Every once in a while, most of the time I play it up a little bit. Like I don't actually get angry. But this one I was like, no. So comicbook.com, Major by Mark Deschamps. I like that. Major PS5 scalper claims his operation creates, quote, entrepreneurs, unquote. I saw this and I wanted to slap someone. So we're going to keep reading and then I'm going to give my take on it. More than 1 year has passed since the release of the PlayStation 5, but the next-gen console remains incredibly difficult to come by. Resellers have been a major part of the problem as PS5 systems still sell for hundreds of dollars over their MSRP. While PlayStation fans are quite frustrated with this situation, resellers continue to argue that there's nothing wrong with what they're doing. In an interview with Sky News in the UK, aftermarket arbitrage owner Jack Bayless said his company has given an opportunity for entrepreneurs to make good money. What they're doing, quote, what they're doing is they're being entrepreneurs. They're going out, creating a side income, and they're doing something that 90% of the population can't be bothered to do, unquote, Bayless told Sky News. Actually, it's because 90% of the population aren't scumbags. Anyway, one of the biggest sources of frustration for PlayStation fans has been companies that use bots to scoop up these PS5 consoles. There have been attempts at legislation in the US and UK to ban the practice, although nothing has happened as of this writing. Bayless tells Sky News that 95% of aftermarket arbitrage's members don't use bots, relying instead on manual purchases. Bayless went on to say that members have been able to find a lot of success for themselves. Quote, "We've then had one of our members, he was £20,000 in gambling debt, and we took him on. And he's been with us for a year, he's now in the clear, and I think he's made a significant amount of money." Bayless's comments likely won't win over PlayStation fans that have been struggling to get a PS5, you think? Or those that have been forced to spend a significant amount of extra to secure one. The situation has likely been exacerbated by a global chip shortage that has made it difficult for companies like Sony to meet demand. It's unclear how long it might take for the situation to improve, but until it does, fans probably won't sympathize too much with resellers.
Okay, their example was a dude who got into debt gambling.
Yeah, it's not like he had his house taken away because he lost his job or anything.
It's not like, oh, snap, he had his wife die of COVID, he lost his job, lost his house, we took him in, gave him a place to stay, had him sell consoles, and now he's doing... No, it's...
He lost all his money gambling.
He made crap choices, so we're going to screw other people over.
So we're going to allow him to make more crap choices to make up for his previous crap choices. See, the problem is... there probably is nothing illegal about what they're doing, which is what makes it so stupid. Because yes, when you buy a thing, you have the right to sell it however you want. However, when you ambush a site to make sure that there is no way that anybody can get it for personal use, and you are just using it to sell it for 50 to 60% on top of the MSRP, that may not be illegal, but it's got to be unethical. Like, that's not the way you're...
Well, when they say one per person, right? Online store, they're like one per person, and you make 1,000 bots to buy 1,000 of them.
That's illegal.
That's illegal. It's going against.
And
what
he
the
says
store
95% of their people. Also, I didn't know that they had unionized. Like, this is a company that hires people to buy and sell PS5s, but they're not a licensed retailer. They don't have the license to go like buy electronics like that. They're just guys buying consoles to resell them and then labeling themselves as entrepreneurs. This makes me just as mad as the whole NFT bro thing, because they're so convinced that they're in on this new, like, innovative business model that everyone who hates them is just not on the trend, and they just, like you said, 90% of the population can't be bothered to do it. No, 90% of the population can't get a PS5 because you're buying them all.
I would rather have someone do NFT stuff.
I would rather that, yes.
You know,
but the mentality is the same. Like, oh, we're in on this thing and nobody else is in it, and everyone that's mad at us is just not understanding the reality of it. I'm like, no.
I need to be careful what I say on podcasts.
Oh, this makes me mad.
I don't want to do things that will get me
need some calming chamomile.
Trouble with the law. So I'm going to say they suck. And I'm not going to say much more because I don't think I should.
It makes me angry, and it makes me upset because, yes, there is legally, unless they're making bots, but if they're sitting there and clicking the purchase button over and over again, there's nothing illegal. But like, what kind of mental gymnastics do you have to do to tell yourself that me buying all of a thing and selling it for more than the people who made it say it is worth is an ethical thing to do? Like, if I went out and I bought all of the Tylenol at a Walgreens. I bought the entire stock. And then I stood outside of said Walgreens, like off their property so they couldn't sue me, but like as close as possible. Like, let's say the street corner outside the Walgreens, and started selling it at 50% a bottle. And then they went and people were like, I'm not going to buy that. They go in the Walgreens, there's no Tylenol. And every time they get a restock, I go right in and I buy it. How is that right? Like, everyone would say that I'm an idiot and a jerk. I probably would get arrested. There's probably something illegal about that, but that is essentially what is happening.
Well, that's what happened when the guys went and bought all the hand sanitizer and toilet paper.
Yeah, and started reselling it.
Yeah, they got in trouble. They had to give it all away for free. Like, they lost over $40,000.
Nothing smells like, I love the smell of justice in the morning.
So it's like, and it's one of those things where it's like, well, how come this is allowed? I don't know.
I think because it's a non-essential item, like it is a luxury item, whereas hand sanitizer and toilet paper are personal care and
it was
health
in the middle
items.
Of a pandemic, so I mean.
So I think that's the difference: is nobody's going to die if they don't get a PS5. So,
well, maybe.
No, they might die trying to get one.
That's true. And it'd be different too if there was in-store options, right? But in a time where everything had to be online, it's not like your average mom that's trying to get one for her son can make a bot to go get herself a PS5. Like, that's I don't know. It's
the fact that I think
it's
what
sad.
makes me angry about, like, Scalpers already made me upset because, like, but it was easy to be upset at some dude in his mom's basement who had nothing better to do, who was making a quick buck off of scalping. But this guy is trying to bill himself as a legitimate business owner. And that is not cool.
We're entrepreneurs.
No, you're not.
No.
You know, an entrepreneur goes out and creates a product and sells or service and sells said product because they know there's a market for it. You are not creating or you are not creating anything. You're not creating a product or a service. You are making an already existing service not work for the common people. You are actually throwing a wrench in the market. Yeah. You are the opposite of an entrepreneur.
You're a piece of trash. That's
all right. We got
gum stuck under my boot.
We gotta move on. I am actually getting upset about this. So this is probably the angriest roast of the week I've ever had. But
prepare to get a little bit more like, what?
Yeah, this didn't make me angry. This just kind of made me go like, huh?
So Horizon Forbidden West could potentially take up to 100 gigabytes on your PS5.
It's still less than Call of Duty.
Players by Vicky Blake on Games Radar says U.S. players will need just 85.9 gigabytes of free space.
That's her quotes. We're not making fun of her. She's being sarcastic. And
it's like, why? I get why, but you know what I'm saying. Like, that's a lot of space.
So, yeah, they're saying, we can read the article a little bit, but they're saying that that's mainly because of the language patches in the EU version.
Right.
But anyway.
It just, I started like looking at it and so I understand that games have become bigger and more intense and more involved and more everything, blah, blah, blah. But remember the days of the PlayStation 2 when it was a 500 megabyte cart? 500 megabyte cart, and that's all you needed.
Okay, so
for all your games ever.
Well, that's all you needed for the save data, because the games were stored on the disc.
Oh yeah, discs were a thing.
Remember when discs were a thing? 3 years ago when we could just buy discs.
But even now, you buy a disc and it still
has to download to the console.
It's like,
yeah, back then you were able to store your entire game on a disc, and the console read the disc and streamed it from the disc, and the only thing the console had to worry about storing was your save data. And the console didn't even store that; it was the memory card.
Right. It's just
now it's the full game. So,
and the article goes on to say, it says the originally reported 96.3 gigabytes now seems to pertain to the European version. Although, as file size can be up to 20 gigabytes larger than estimates given in the database listing after updates and day one patches have all been applied, that means European players may need to free up around 120 gigabytes to join Aloy and her sequel. That's too much. Like,
yeah,
somehow figure out a way to compress it. Like, we're coming up with these amazing games, 4K stuff. 60 to 120 frames per second. And I get it. All these things look amazing. That's awesome. But we also have to learn how to either make storage cards bigger and cheaper, or we need to learn how to make the games still fit into smaller packages.
Yeah, so I appreciate what Microsoft is doing. It doesn't quite work super well yet as far as like the shrinking games. Like, you can shrink certain games on Xbox to save space. So they're trying, but games are so big, especially 4K games. Like, can you imagine Horizon Forbidden West in 4K? That whole thing has got to be enormous. So I understand it, and I'm, again, speaking from a guy who doesn't do game dev, can't imagine how difficult it is. So I understand why it's so big. I do, but it makes it really hard to enjoy games, especially when you're talking Game Pass, where you have to install games on the fly.
Right.
Like I said, I used up all of my space on my Series S within like the first week of having it. And now I have an external drive, but I can only play last gen games from that. If a game is optimized for the Series S, I have to have it on my internal storage.
Well, and things like the PlayStation 5 digital version, like, so you got 500 gigabytes, you can have 4 games. If that, because other things take up space too, like Netflix and Hulu and all that stuff.
Keeping in mind that you don't actually get 500 gigabytes of usable space, because the OS takes up or the BIOS takes up a certain amount of that.
Right. So you get 3 games roughly at 120 gigs. So you could have let's just say Horizon Forbidden West, you could have Call of Duty Warzone and Madden or like one other game, and that's it. Those 3 games are the only games you get for your brand new console unless you want to delete and reload, which again, if you have 1 gigabyte update speed or upload speed, then it's different. It's not as huge of a deal. But for those that don't, which is the majority of the United States and everywhere else in the world,
can't you use external hard drives on PS5 though? To like run things?
I'm not sure. I think they were working on it, but I'm not sure if you can or not.
I think you can run things off. I think it works a little different than Xbox. PlayStation has always been a little bit more friendly to, which is ironic to like external stuff, which is ironic because Microsoft is kind of known as being like the PC where you can use anything with anything. It looks like you can. I don't know if you can run games off of it, which I mean, you can do that with an Xbox.
It has to be compatible.
Yeah, but you can format it to be compatible.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, I guess it's possible.
Yeah. So they don't actually know how big Horizon Forbidden West is going to be. We're still waiting to hear the actual. Obviously, we're not going to know until it's released. But yeah, in the US, the action RPG will reportedly come in a little leaner than originally stated, although it'll still take up a sizable 85.9 gigabytes. The originally reported 96.3 gigabytes now seems to pertain to the European version. So that's kind of what they're saying is it's going to be those language patches.
Right. So maybe up to 120 gigabytes. Be prepared for that.
Oh, yeah, because they're saying that sometimes those estimates are like 20 gigabytes lower than reality. Right.
So we'll find out what happens.
Yep. It's a good thing that I haven't even beaten the first one, so I don't really have any interest in playing the second one until I beat the first one.
Well, we'll find out what happens.
I'll get there. All right, so next thing, we are hopefully, I don't know if this is going to be any more positive or not. I feel like we've been really negative. No, it's not positive.
It's not.
CharlieIntel.com, Battlefield 2042. Here we go. Battlefield 2042 dev apologizes and removes, quote, slap in the face, unquote, portal mode. By Liam McKay on CharlieIntel.com. Battlefield 2042 added a bot farm mode to Portal's featured experiences, and a dev apologized before removing it. Battlefield 2042 devs added a new zombie mode to Portal, but it quickly became clear that it could be used as an XP farm. Players called it a slap in the face, and a Battlefield Portal dev has since apologized and the mode has been removed. Battlefield Portal gives players an incredible amount of tools to create their own modes using assets from previous Battlefield games and 2042. After assuring players that it couldn't be used to farm XPs, the devs almost completely removed Portal XP after the browser was full of XP farms. The devs made changes to Portal XP in January 20th's update 3.2, increasing the XP cap for unofficial servers. Then they released the zombie survival mode that acted exactly like an XP farm and quickly removed it following backlash. Battlefield 2042 players have been desperate for Portal XP to be re-enabled after it has been removed from custom modes to prevent XP farms. Developers Ripple Effect increased the Portal XP cap in the January 20th update, but it's still not as much as players would like. Then, later on January 20th, the devs added the Zombie Survival mode, which players called an official bot farm. In this mode, players would battle waves of AI enemies who would be extremely easy to kill, earning a ton of XP and mastery rewards in the process. Twitter user 235nuke said the Zombie Survival mode is a, quote, slap in the face to the gaming communities and others whom, want to run experiences in Portal. This zombie mode is an official bot farm, which is why XP was restricted in Portal. The tweet prompted a response from Ripple Effect Senior Design Director Justin Wybe? I don't know that. Wybe, who apologized. Quote, I'm not going to lie, this one shouldn't have gotten through our review process, said Wybe. I think our desire to create a fun zombies mode clouded our ability to see such a simple thing like the impact it would have on progression. I'm very sorry for the hardship this has caused, unquote. So, once again, we see that Battlefield can't seem to get people to like it. They try. They really are trying. Like, you got to give them credit for effort. It's not that they're not trying.
They're just not succeeding.
They're not in touch with what people want, or they're not thinking things through.
Well, and again, I will stand by this. Portal is one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in terms of the fact that they give you the dev tools to make pretty much whatever you want, and people have made amazing things. Like realism battle. Like I've seen the closest to Arma 3 on console that I've seen in a while.
Yeah.
And that's with the realism modes that people make on Battlefield.
But the frustrating thing is that's not because DICE has made them.
Correct.
It's because people have made them.
And I agree. But what I'm saying is DICE released the dev tools to do that, which is cool. That being said, if right below that article is another person that wrote an article in the same website, Liam Mackey said Battlefield 2042 could go free to play after EA very disappointed with release.
Oof.
EA are reportedly considering a free to play model for Battlefield 2042 after its poor release and low player count. So if that happens, I feel like that could help pick it up.
It could.
They would have to offer some type of refund for all those that bought it.
Yeah.
And things like that. Actually, technically, Aaron bought it for me, so thank you, buddy. But
still,
it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know. That if I were them, I'd call up Microsoft and say, hey, can we sell it to you to put on Game Pass for what do you want type deal? Or EA itself, since EA has their own little section, they just put on Game Pass themselves. Or, I don't know.
Well, yeah, because you've got EA Play.
Right.
So this whole debacle has kind of prompted some speculation that EA might be the next acquisition.
PlayStation gonna do it?
I don't know.
They better, because Xbox is like, what else can I get my little
slurp.
I mean, what's another $100 billion when you've already spent over $100 billion to get Bethesda?
Yeah.
I mean, oh man. Could you imagine if they did just say, oh yeah, we acquired EA?
Yeah, that'd be yikes.
Like, I thought the biggest gaming news of history was when they got Bethesda, right? And then they went and they were like, oh, by the way, boom. And it's like, oh my gosh. And then if they come by and go, and EA, it's like, okay, when does it become illegal?
Yeah, when does this become a monopoly?
Which I don't think it's there yet. I even if they took EA, I think there'd still be enough there for PlayStation or for Sony to kind of compete with still.
Maybe.
Because when it becomes impossible to compete, that's when I'm like, okay, snap. But like, I don't know. There's still not necessarily a bunch of studios for Sony to pick up, but I mean, it almost makes room for more studios to be created.
Right.
Essentially. Like,
I think if Sony really leaned into the indie scene, that could be really helpful for them.
Yeah, I mean, they could definitely take off with that. In Xbox, if Microsoft really leaned into it, they could too, because they have Game Pass. They could just be like, hey, we'll give you, X amount of money to throw that on Game Pass.
And there are a lot of indie games on Game Pass.
Exactly. So, I don't know. We'll have to see how that fills out, or that goes out. But I really hope EA gets bought by somebody.
Makes me feel better for not buying 2042 if it goes free to play.
Yeah, true. I hope EA gets screwed over. Like,
wow.
I'm tired of them making crap stuff.
Yeah.
They've destroyed the Battlefield games. Or not Battlefield, Battlefront, sorry. They've destroyed the Battlefront games. They've destroyed Madden and 2K. I think 2K is... Oh my gosh. Now I gotta look. I think 2K is different.
I will say... I don't know how. I get maybe EA owns Hazelight, but I know I played It Takes Two through EA Play, and so it's not that everything that EA releases is bad. Like It Takes Two was pretty incredible. Michaela and I were able to play through it together, and it was a lot of fun.
Oh, never mind. 2K is different. The whole video game thing of like football and basketball, like 2K and Madden and all. And
then throw in WWE in there. Which is also like 2K.
So, like, there's just some... Anyway, all I know is EA screws up a game, okay? You're like, here's a game. And they're like, thanks for the license. And then they rip it. And they're like, oh, microtransactions. Woo! It's like, why? Why? Anyway.
Yeah.
So, they suck. They need to get destroyed. But
I guess last week was a really uplifting episode, so we felt the need to balance it out, maybe. I don't know.
So... Here's something that is kind of uplifting now, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, no, this is uplifting.
I like it. So this is by Connor Sheridan over at Games Radar. And he says, Xbox Phil Spencer wants to work on, quote, franchises that I loved from my childhood, end quote, with Activision. Quote, I was looking at the IP list. I mean, let's go, end quote. Xbox Phil Spencer is interested in bringing back some of Activision's dormant game franchises after the two companies become one. The head of Microsoft Gaming opened up about the potential new opportunities made possible by the Microsoft Activision purchase in a new interview with the Washington Post. Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick previously mentioned potential revivals for both Guitar Hero and Skylanders thanks to the increased production capabilities of joining the Microsoft team. And Spencer pointed out some more prospects he's excited to have under the Microsoft umbrella. Quote, I was looking at the IP list, and I mean, let's go. King's Quest, Guitar Hero. I should know this, but I think they got Hexen. End quote. And yes, Activision does, in fact, own the rights to Raven Software 1996 Dark Fantasy First-Person Battler. Quote, we're hoping that we'll be able to work with them when the deal closes to make sure we have resources to work on franchises that I love from my childhood and the teams really want to get, Spencer said. It just... that's the end of his quote. Sorry. It isn't just about getting rights to cool games. Of course, Spencer made sure to note that he thinks the deal is really about adding resources and increasing capability. If some of those resources grant the capability to make a new Hexen, then that's just good corporate synergy. So, essentially, he's like a kid in a candy store.
Yeah.
Like,
I was going to say, he seems like such a bro reading this article.
Imagine, like, being a kid and going into a candy store and being like, I love all these candies, blah, 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 blah. And then you grow up and you're like, I'm going to buy the candy store. And you get to walk into that candy store and go, oh my gosh, look at all the candy from when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like, and you can bring them all back. Like, I don't know. Like, to me, that's what he's doing. And that's just kind of wholesome. Like,
it is.
Like, he has the money and the capability to bring back his childhood, and he's doing it for himself and for everyone else that lived that childhood alongside him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see Guitar Hero coming back would be awesome. I remember when that first came out and my cousin got it. We went over, he had the drum kit, he had like the guitar, he had the bass, he had like all the things. Me and my sisters and him, we just jammed out on it. It was so much fun.
It is interesting. So I don't have a ton of experience with Activision games, just because I've been a big Nintendo fan for most of my life. So with purchases like this, it's kind of hard to keep track of who owns everything. So really, this is how I'm seeing kind of what we could see. I never loved Guitar Hero. I think I played it once or twice at a friend's house. I think it'd be cool to see a new King's Quest. That's insane that got purchased.
That would be cool.
I've never even heard of Hexen, but that sounds really cool. Now, it is interesting to point out that the end of this article does say all of these potential collaborations are predicated on the idea that the purchase will go through, but an industry analyst has pointed out that the process is likely to be long and not guaranteed. So, as again, we've said before, we're probably not going to start seeing things actually come together for a couple years, like at least beginning of next year, if not later. Oh, that looks like Doom set in medieval.
It does.
That's interesting. But anyway, so it could be, I think it could be really cool. I think Phil Spencer seems to have a good attitude about it. I think it's going to be a cool idea. I just, again, still don't know how I feel about the whole like nom nom that Microsoft is doing. But at the same time, it is cool to be able to have them all under the same leadership and into the same house.
And under good leadership.
Yeah.
Like, as far as I can tell, like, he's a cool dude and he wants to do right by video games. And I think he will. And like you said, nothing is going to happen. Like Warzone and Call of Duty, that's not coming off of PlayStation for probably the next 2 years. Like it's going to be a bit of time.
Right.
I mean, they'll probably come to Game Pass within that time. I would assume in the next 6 months to a year, we could see them pop over to Game Pass.
Right.
But as far as actually taking away from PlayStation, I don't think that's going to happen for a while. I don't think they're going to be making a new Hexen game or Guitar Hero in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
So they set themselves up for the latter half of this generation and for the following generation is what they really set it up for. I mean, think 10 years down the road, it's, Call of Duty, Guitar Hero, stuff like that just being over on Xbox. That's just going to be a thing now.
It's just going to be what you
Crash
associate it
Bandicoot,
with.
It's like, oh, well, didn't that used to be PlayStation one time? There's going to be a generation growing up going, Crash Bandicoot was actually on PlayStation? What?
Yeah.
And we're going to be like, back in the day. But then Xbox said no. So
I'm a little worried that there's going to be a generation that says Mario used to be on the Nintendo. And we're like, yep, Now he's had his green.
You imagine if Nintendo got bought by someone.
Oh boy, that is a world that now. I don't know how I'd feel about that, man. I think Nintendo.
Amazon just goes, let's buy something too. Nintendo. It's
yeah.
like, okay.
It's like Kirby. He just goes. Oh boy.
Oh man. They could add Jeff Bezos to Smash.
They could.
I mean, even though he's not in charge of Amazon.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean.
Yeah. I think Nintendo's biggest strength is its independence and its creativity. And I still have mixed feelings about it ever since Satoru Iwata died. I think they've been more focused on the business end than they have been the innovation. But like, if they got bought out, I think we'd lose pretty much any innovation Nintendo has.
Yeah.
Which would be very sad.
Those WNDs, weird Nintendo decisions.
Yeah. But I don't know. We'll see. There's literally no speculation
Sony
going on.
buys them? Sony's just like, we need one.
Okay.
Hey.
So fun fact about that would be some kind of dramatic irony. So the PlayStation was actually founded as a collaboration between Sony and Nintendo to make a disc reader for the Super Nintendo. It was going to be called the Nintendo PlayStation. But halfway through, after Sony did all of the R&D and everything, Nintendo backed out of the deal and partnered with Philips to make the Philips CDI, which is why we have the Zelda CDI games in Hotel Mario, these horrible, horrible games for this failed console.
I've never even heard of that console.
By doing that, Nintendo created the PlayStation. We would not have a PlayStation by Sony had that deal gone through. We would have had the Nintendo PlayStation, which would have been an add-on for the Super Nintendo.
You were supposed to destroy the Sith. It's supposed to be balanced to the Force.
Yeah. And instead, they created one of their biggest rivals that they have always struggled to compete with. So if Sony ended up buying Nintendo,
Sony's standing up there and he's like, "You are my brother, Nintendo," and he's down there. He's like, "I hate you."
Yeah, that would be. So for Sony to buy Nintendo would be like the ultimate dramatic irony.
The memes would be amazing.
It would be Macduff killing Macbeth at the end of Macbeth. It would be a Shakespearean tragedy. Wrapped up in one, being played out in the real world.
Know what they say about karma?
Yeah. Anyway,
wow.
All of that is speculation. None of that has any basis in reality. We were just making that up, but it'd be weird, man.
In one world.
In a world where businesses are basically the same, but one of them is doing slightly bit less good than it is now.
It could have been said in a world where Microsoft buys Bethesda. And people have been like, that's impossible. And then it happened. And it's like, in a world where Microsoft buys Activision Blizzard, it's like, that's impossible. True. So, I mean...
This feels like that Marvel comic series that's just Deadpool kills the Marvel universe, except it's Phil Spencer buys the universe.
Again, I'd rather have him do it than quite a bit of other people that have the money.
I suppose.
I mean, could you imagine if Jeff Bezos did just go out and buy Activision Blizzard? It'd be like, okay, well, they're just done. They're gone. Yeah, there's no reviving it. They're done.
Yeah, that would be kind of what it is.
So they're going to sell rockets or something. I don't know.
Activision rockets. There's a joke there somewhere. I can't figure out what it is.
It would have microtransactions. People would be
that's EA. That's EA's thing.
Well, yes, but also Activision sucks too at stuff like that.
I was thinking more along the lines of it just has Tony Hawk on the front of it. It's just going up and it's got Tony Hawk's face plastered on it.
You'd get into space and they'd be like, "Can't breathe," and be like, "Oh, did you want the oxygen DLC?" And it's like,
yikes.
Yes. Can I have
please.
that? And like, okay, 120 gigabytes to download. It's like
and also you have to open a loot box. Like when it gets there, a box down, and you have to wait like 5 seconds for the animation to play while you open the loot box.
Oh my gosh, we went down such a rabbit hole, and we are now lost. So
yeah, we got to bring it back. All right. This is a weird note to end on. Also, fair warning, this article is really hard to read because Netflix's CEO, they tried transcribing his quotes, and I had no idea what he was talking about, but I'm going to do my best. GameSpot.com, Eddie Mackek. Netflix responds to Microsoft's planned acquisition of Activision Blizzard, teases, quote, absolute best, unquote, service. That's a bold claim. Quote, I think to some degree it's an endorsement of the core thesis that we have around subscription being a great model to connect consumers around the world with games and gaming experiences. That's the CEO of Netflix. Unquote. Sorry, unquote before I said that's the CEO of Netflix. Executives from Netflix have responded to Microsoft's recent announcement of a proposed buyout of Activision Blizzard, saying Microsoft's move is an endorsement that subscription-based models are powerful. Microsoft, of course, has Game Pass, which now has 25 million subscribers and is poised to grow much bigger in the years ahead, presumably. Quote, "It was exciting to see the activity in the space," unquote, Netflix COO and Chief Product Officer Greg Peters said during the company's latest earnings briefing. Quote, "And I think to some degree it's an endorsement of the core thesis that we have around subscription being a great model to connect consumers around the world with games and games experiences," unquote. Netflix is currently involved in the mobile gaming space, and Peters said fans can expect Netflix to do more in this space when it comes to licensing. Quote, "We're open to licensing, accessing large game IP that people will recognize, and I think you'll see some of that happen over the year to come," unquote, Peters said. In its earnings release, Netflix said fans can expect the company to release more games in the, quote, "casual and core gaming genres," unquote, in 2022 as the company build out a portfolio of games that subscribers like the best. Peters went on to say that Netflix will look to make, quote, "interactive experiences," unquote, instead of just licensed games. Quote, "But we also see back to test like building out a whole..." Okay, see, this is the problem. I don't know what this means. But we also see back to test like building out a whole cloth and the ability to take the franchises or the big titles, let's call it, that we are excited about and actually develop interactive experiences that are connected to those. We see a huge long-term multi-year opportunity in that too," unquote, Peters says. He goes on to keep talking about that they're going to be experimental and try new things. Like I said, I had a hard time understanding it, if that word salad meant anything to you. I think it's weird that Netflix is so hopeful because I don't...
It seems like he's over there like, see, like, I'm Phil Spencer too. Like,
yeah,
they're streaming games, we're streaming movies and making mobile games, so
and
it's like the same thing.
Yeah.
He's like, if they bought Activision Blizzard, it's like we got Activision Blizzard too. It's like, in no way at all are those anywhere related.
Now let me be clear here. I just had a discussion in Geeks Under Grace about the importance of mobile gaming, specifically the audience, and how mobile gaming is going beyond where it initially was. Like, mobile gaming used to be a little bit of a novelty. Oh, you can play games on your iPhone. And like now it's kind of a big deal. There's a lot of people that mobile gaming is their only exposure to gaming. And mobile gaming, Anna in Geeks Under Grace was saying, basically, we can't just write it off as like stupid because it doesn't appeal to the core gaming audience. Like, it's going to become part of gaming, including all of the caveats like microtransactions and pay to win formulas. She's saying basically, if we're not careful to engage with it, it could just happen.
Yeah.
And I think we're seeing that with Netflix taking on mobile gaming and trying to compete with Game Pass with mobile games.
Yeah, I've definitely had a few games on mobile that I've really, really enjoyed. For me, I think like my biggest thing is like first-person shooters. I don't want to play those on mobile.
No.
I don't like them.
That wouldn't work.
But when it comes to like some of these MMORPGs and castle builders, world builders, stuff, to me, I do like playing that.
Yeah.
And I get way too engrossed in it. One time, my wife literally told me, she's like, dude, you got to stop. And I actually had to stop playing the game for about 6 months because I got way too into it.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
I will say,
I got way too into it.
I actually prefer playing point-and-click adventure games on mobile than I do on console. I played through all of Broken Age and Day of the Tentacle Remastered on my phone, because it fits that pick up and play. You can get right back into it, go back to where you were, play for a little bit, get 10, 15 minutes of progress even, and then put it back down.
Well,
whereas on a console, you don't want to boot it up and get back into it. Like, I've had Grim Fandango Remastered for probably 2 or 3 years now on my computer, and I still haven't beaten it because I don't know. I don't have to hook up my computer, boot up Steam, hook in my external drive, all of that stuff.
Well, with the point and the click, like you were saying, like it's with phone, it's easy to do the touch screen.
Right.
With 2 analog sticks, those just don't go over well.
Right. It doesn't really, you can't just tap where you want to go.
Right.
Again, it fits it because point and click adventure games were made for mouse and keyboard controls where you could just click where you wanted. That's kind of what touch interfaces are.
So, oh man, that was a long podcast, but
yeah, sorry guys.
I've enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. That's your news for the week. Last week was, we had the bonus episode, the regular episode. We're really glad you guys liked that bonus episode. The numbers for that are really positive. So that's good. Thank you guys for tuning in. Even though that was a last minute thing, you guys still hopped on, watched. We definitely appreciate it. We thank you guys for watching all these episodes and just sticking with us. And yeah, make sure you guys play lots of games, drink lots of coffee. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye-bye. See you later.